Hi. Over the last two sessions, we uncovered something that many tarot readers just don't get enough focus on. Damn it. Hi, this is Teaching Tarot. I'm Annabelle. I'm a tarot practitioner and psychic for over 35 years. In the last session, we talked about timing in tarot in terms of the astrological decans in the minor arcana. So we're going to talk about something a little bit easier. This is elemental speed in tarot, and it really leans into your intuition. It's a little bit easier to digest than the astrological decans. So we'll be right back. Thanks so much, Tarot fam. So over the last two sessions of this series, we talked about some interesting things in terms of timing in tarot. In episode 1, we talked about why readers say tarot is bad at timing. I was one of those. I used to say it all the time. We discovered that the problem isn't really the cards. It's just that a lot of people are not taught the framework. Many tarot students learn by memorization. I do think that the pre-printed cards that have the cheater notes on them are fantastic when you're learning. A lot of them will have the astrology and the planetary information printed right on them. If you are not inclined to get that kind of a deck, you can always get yourself a burner deck, and you can put some notes on either with a label maker, or you can write on them. My first deck is well marked up all over every single cards. I still have it, but this is one that I use for teaching. It's a little bit easier to see. So we can put the framework on the cards as you keep using them. You're going to get used to it. In the second installment, we talked about how the minor arcana actually has a calendar in there that's based on the astrology calendar and the 10-degree decans within each sign. I gave you guys some advisement that, think about some people that have birth dates over the 10-day period that's covered in those decans, and see if you can put some of their attributes, the milieu of their personality, into that phase that the card represents. You're going to be able to develop a better understanding. This is when we get really fluent in learning tarot, when we start making those connections to things in our life. So we're going to add another layer today. Because a lot of psychics, when they're reading psychically in terms of timing, they'll know the season that happens. I am one of those clairsentient timing kind of manifests as the weather at the time. It feels like a soggy spring day, or it feels like a blustery, cold winter day with no snow. So I can sometimes give that. In fact, I've given readings where I say to people, it's going to be snowing on the day that you get a positive pregnancy test. I actually said that to one of our friends last year. They have a very healthy toddler right now, or I've got soon to be toddler. But when we're saying how fast is it coming in, we're talking about the speed and the momentum of the process. So that's where the elements become a much stronger player in this. And I've got my minor arcana spread out ace through 10. And it's just that we can talk about the elements and the representative suits. So each tarot suit, and you may have a novelty deck, for example, like the Cottage Magic Tarot. This has biscuits and candles and all kinds of cute cottage core items for that. There will always be a correspondence to the traditional Rider-Waite symbology and suits. So here, wands represent fire. Remember, we talked about Aries being represented by this and some other fiery signs. The cups will represent water. The swords will represent air and the air signs. See what I'm doing here? And the pentacles are going to represent earth and the earth signs. So a lot of tarot students learn this very early on. What they sometimes miss out on is that there is speed that's represented by these as well. So they not only describe the element, they not only connect to the astrology, but they describe movement and they describe speed. So fire spreads very quickly. Air moves constantly. Water flows, pools, and gathers, and earth builds slowly and steadily. Tarot mirrors those behaviors. So if we're talking about building a house made of wands may be built very, very quickly because of some needs. If we're talking about a house being built with pentacles, we're going to go a little bit slower. It's going to stand the test of time. This is maybe a house of straw versus a house of bricks, like in the Three Little Pigs. So when we're answering questions about timing, we can just pull a real quick, like if you want to say how soon something's going to happen, you could shuffle the 4 aces and pull one of the cards out and go, hey, it's stuck in the mud. It's moving like treacle. Or you can pull out that one, if it was a pentacle, and you can pull out that wand and go, this is moving really, really fast. I think that you should get used to the momentum of things. So let's talk about the fire suit. Wands, they move the fastest. They tend to move the fastest. Fire is ignition. It is action. It is momentum. It is the jump off point. Think about the spark when we light a match. When the wands appear in a timing question, things can unfold in days to weeks. Wands also represent days to weeks once the situation has begun. When we are looking at the swords, the air signs here, air moves quickly. It's through communication, decisions, mental shifts, those kinds of things. But sword timing often develops over several weeks. It's a little bit slower than the ace, than the wands, but it does move pretty rapidly. Now we go to the cups. Water tends to move slowly because we have to consider that relationships and partnerships and emotions need time to develop. So think about it that way. Sometimes water will get pooled and it'll get stuck in like a little tidal pool and we won't be connected to the ocean, but then the ocean comes back in and it takes it back out. Cups are weeks to months, but I always say that I feel like the weeks to months are sometimes a bit dreamier. They are kind of suspended animation. That's kind of the timing that goes with cups. It's very wishy-washy, pardon the pun intended though. But finally, we have the earth. Earth is the slowest element. I want you to think of this as seeds buried that take time to grow. They're under the snow. They are resting. They are growing. This is going to be the slowest element. It doesn't mean that nothing is happening when we get the pentacles. Like some people think it's like a full stop, like a lead weight drops, but it doesn't. It actually is moving, but sometimes in hibernation, if that makes sense. So very, very different kind of feel. Do a little practice with the 4 aces in your deck. Take them out and ask a timing question like, how fast is my elevation at work going? You can shuffle, shuffle, throw them down. Then ask something that you know is going really slow, something you know is going really fast, and see what you come up with. You're going to find fast, slower, wicked slow, and then slowest. You know, you'll get the sense of it. So you can ask celebrity questions. You can ask questions about yourself. If there's one pregnant woman in your life, pull some cards on that and see what happens. So let's combine some of this speediness with seasons. So we're going to go back to what we talked about in episode 2, where the minor arcana gives a seasonal window through those zodiac decans. So remember, we've got spring with the aces here. We've got fall with the swords here. summer with our cups, and winter for our aces. So what if we pull the Three of Wands? So our Three of Wands there, we're looking at a decan in the Aries season, falls in early spring, specifically March 31st to April 10th. So right around this time of year. Because the card is fire, it's fast movement. So once that seasonal window opens, things are going to progress very quickly. Let's compare that with an Eight of Pentacles. Remember what I said about Pentacles? They are much more slow moving, intentional, purposeful. So this card responds to a Virgo decan. And Virgo season occurs in the late summer, but the element is earth. So even though that seasonal window may be open during that period, the development itself may be steady and gradual. So the season tells you when the door opens, but the element tells you how fast to walk through it. I hope that that made sense. Any questions about that, you can leave it down below. But don't forget, I'm going to be doing some live classes where we discuss some of this information. Frequently, I'll be doing some live classes here. So now, numbers are going to add another layer onto this. So we can refine the timing by looking at the number on the card. Lower numbers like 2 and 3 often represent early movement, initial development. Word of caution here is that if you study the Kabbalah tree of life, Ace 2 and 3 are all up in the top section of the tree, and they are all thinking processes, not yet physical. They're not yet stabilized. They're not yet in actual development. So I want you to keep that in mind as well. It's early movement, initial development, not necessarily building yet. The middle numbers, 4 through 6, will show stabilization, disruption, and stabilization. So 4 is foundations. 5 is a little bit of chaos where we're kind of making the adjustments. And 6, we go back to a stabilization process. So is it chaotic? Yes. Do we land in stable positions in the middle of our number system here? Yes, we do. So it's a little bit of chaos. Think about your, getting caught in one of those blankets and thrown up in the air. The higher numbers, 7 through 10, tend to show the momentum that is building and accumulating as we're getting toward conclusion. I always say the 8s really feel the slipperiest. It really feels like we've got less friction. Again, it's a place of stability. It's an even number place of stability. But we're really kind of slipping through the process there. We're sliding down the slide at that point. So an example, if we pull the 2 of Wands, this is sparky, good energy. We are going to start up, possibly with another person. We are striking the match with someone else, with a partner. But if we get 10 of Pentacles, this is the culmination of effort, long done. So this is long time standing testimonial kind of energy. We are done. We're standing back and looking at it. So the element is telling you the speed, and the number is going to tell you the phase. The 10s, we're done. We're finito. We finished our job. So timing in tarot is rarely about predicting the exact calendar day, even though those decans can get us into that 10-day window. You want to make sure that you bring in seasonality. You want to make sure that you bring in speed. Tarot shows us cycles and windows of probability. If a spread has a lot of fire energy, the opportunity may arrive very quickly. If it's got a lot of pentacles, patience and persistence may be required. So tarot doesn't eliminate free will. So many people tell me my future. I will tell you what you can do to have your best future. Tarot helps us understand the rhythm of events so we can fix the timing on those very best futures. So today we added another layer to our timing system. And I hope that this is starting to come together and you're starting to use it in your practice. The minor arcana calendar shows us seasonal windows, shows us those 10-day windows. The elements will show us the speed of development, and the numbers are going to reveal the phase within that process. So in our next episode, we are going to tackle a category of cards that confuses many readers when it comes to timing, and it's the court cards. The pages, knights, queens, kings, they don't just represent people. They represent a host of things, physicality. They represent occupations. But for our lesson, we're going to talk about how they mark phases within a season. So it's going to be really interesting. Once you understand the court cards and how they play a part in timing indicators and tarots, you're going to get really, really excited. So I'm going to see you in the next one. Bring your notebook. Drop your questions down below. Let me know what I'm leaving out, or if there's any tricky spots that are a little bit hard to understand. This is a journeyman level study of tarot, but I think that it's an accessible level of tarot that anybody can do, especially if you're starting out. I think it's best to learn the best things. My brother-in-law says practice makes permanent. This is a practice that you can make permanent in your practice. So I really want you guys to jump onto this. So I hope you're enjoying this series. I will see you in the next one.